Welcome everyone to the J Tahoe channel, and today we're going to be talking about that last epic arc in one of the most epic games ever made. To lay the scene, you've trekked through Hyrule, overcome the harshest of obstacles, the Forest Temple, the Fire Temple, and yes, even the goddamn Water Temple. Now you're a badass gamer. You've made it all this way. You've got a horse, you've got the Master Sword, and you're literally in the big man's own backyard, winning his own people over before you finally take the fight to him. And then the game says,
"Hey, listen!"
We're gonna slow down for some last-minute exposition. And I don't just mean exposition in the sense of Ocarina of Time, I mean for the series as a whole. We're about to learn a whole lot about the motives and politics of the series' main villain, Ganondorf. If a person were to play Wind Waker for the first Zelda game, they might think Ganondorf did what he did for noble reasons, while listening to his monologue here at the end of the game.
My country lay within a vast desert. When the sun rose into the sky, a burning wind punished my lands, searing the world. And when the moon climbed into the dark of night, a frigid gale pierced our homes. No matter when it came, the wind carried the same thing: death. But the winds that blew across the green fields of Hyrule brought something other than suffering and ruin. I coveted that wind, I suppose.
Based on this, you would think Ganondorf did all that he did to secure a better life and fair treatment for his people, the Gerudo. Except he didn't. Ocarina of Time is the first time we are introduced to the Gerudo people, a race that consists entirely of women, except for one man who is born every 100 years. And because he is the only dude around, by default he automatically gets to be king of all the land. So we know Ganondorf was the lone male Gerudo who became king. But during the Spirit Temple arc of Ocarina, we see the politics of the Gerudo people beginning to get a little shaky. See, long before the Big G overthrows the royal family, Child Link meets Ganondorf's second-in-command, Nabooru, who is less than satisfied with Ganondorf's leadership, and turns to you, a small child, to help her start her coup d'etat against her leader. You know, there's always this debate about where the Zelda timeline would fit into actual human history, but this was definitely one of those early, our boss is kind of a dick, maybe we should delete him and get a new leader moments. So, where are the Gerudo people during Ganondorf's reign for 7 years in the adult timeline of Ocarina, you ask? Well, still in the desert where the sun sears the land and frigid gales pierce their homes at night. Ganon is the king now, the head honcho, so why not invite the Gerudo to Hyrule Castletown? Oh wait, he turned that into a burnt-down wasteland. What a waste! If Ganondorf really cared about his people, why are they still in the same situation he monologued about at the end of Wind Waker? Why hasn't he done anything to improve their standing in the world? And a better question, why do they seem to not even notice or care? When Link defeats the guards inside the fortress to free the Carpenters, the captain is seen to be praising Ganondorf, and in the minds of many of them, everything is just hunky-dory. This shows us that Ganon's speech at the end of Wind Waker was insincere. He never cared about his people, and even when he obtains ultimate domain over the land, he does absolutely nothing to help their lives. So how did we get here? How did this whole mess all start in the first place? If you recall, Ocarina of Time begins in the peacetime after the end of a great war. We see Ganondorf swearing his allegiance to the King of Hyrule when we first meet Zelda. Oftentimes, back in the day, the losers of a war would have to swear allegiance to the kingdom that won the war. This implies that the Hyrule Civil War was fought among the Hylians and the Gerudo, with most likely the Zora and the Gorons taking the side of the Hylians. It also implies that Gerudo Valley was once, and now still is, under the domain of Hyrule, with Ganondorf more of a regional governor than a true king, since he now answers to the King of Hyrule. We also know that Link is a war orphan whose mother and father did not survive the war. In addition to being a powerful sorcerer, the Gerudo King and an immensely physically powerful man, Ganondorf is first and foremost a politician. Somewhere along the way, he sold his people on going to war with Hyrule, most likely taking advantage of their rightful frustration and anguish of being exiled to the desert. Knowing that the Gerudo lost the war, most likely the surrender conditions were that Ganondorf had to swear fealty to the King of Hyrule. One can only guess how many casualties mounted during the war, and how many Gerudo and Hylians were lost. Was Ganon facing strategic defeat on the battlefield, or were there political tensions building at home that caused him to throw in the towel, or face removal from power by his own people? How bought in were they on this war? The Zelda series has us look at the human side of war instead of the political, but the politics do matter. And the fact that Ganondorf surrendered, pledged a contrived allegiance to the King of Hyrule to pull off his manipulative plan to seize power, but yet kept his own people in the same situation he used to get them all riled up to go to war in the first place. It shows that Ganondorf never viewed his people as anything more than a convenient army of red-haired superwomen to do his bidding. And when they weren't successful as tools of conquest for him, he dropped them like a bad habit. To conclude the best arc in the game, as if we haven't learned enough about the politics of the Gerudo already, and if there's one thing people love in their video games, it's a story of nuanced geopolitics. We now get to meet Ganondorf's surrogate mothers, Kotake and Koome, aka the Twin Rova. After defeating them, it's revealed that they've been around for nearly 400 years, and likely influenced Ganon greatly in his youth, and when they brainwashed Nabooru, they were also complicit in using their own people as pawns for political gain. This area of the game is also where Nintendo once again shows off their masterful use of subtext that most children wouldn't notice when playing the game. I know I certainly didn't. Shout out to Game with Andy for catching this one. If you haven't seen her channel, check it out. It's good content.
Also, this is kind of random and I've never noticed it before, but the map kind of looks like the female reproductive system, which is kind of funny given that only women live in the desert, but yeah.
We're not only given the context that Ganondorf is full of crap when he uses the reasoning that he cared for his people when he was just a power-hungry maniac all along, but in Breath of the Wild, which is supposed to take place 1,000 years after the events of Ocarina of Time, we still see the political implications of his deeds. Because of what came of Ganondorf's reign, the Gerudo still have no trust in men and are completely hostile towards them when they try to enter Gerudo Town, making them complete isolationists voluntarily living in the harsh desert climate. We are led to all these conclusions from this part of the game that came out 26 years ago. And this is why the Desert and Spirit Temple is not only the best arc in Ocarina, but likely in the whole Zelda series. So much lore and story is given to us in maybe this 2-hour segment of the game. I've been replaying Ocarina of Time recently and couldn't help but notice just how epic this part really is. Thank you all for watching, discuss your opinions in the comments below, and I will see you in the next video. And as they say, Savak.
Vassikamore, Gerudo Nae, Vassikamore, Gerudo Nae.